1 week from recording this video, the Fiend Bray Wyatt will take on arguably one of the biggest opponents in the Bray Wyatt redemption story that the Fiend is currently telling, Randy Orton. Now, with Randy Orton being one of the biggest opponents for Bray to conquer, you gotta wonder who else is left in WWE for the Fiend. So here are my dream opponents for the Fiend Bray Wyatt. And I'd love to know who you want the Fiend to face most. Let me know in the comments section down below. Of course, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help it out. Now I'm going to look straight ahead to WrestleMania. WrestleMania is coming up very, very quickly, and WWE surely have got a plan of who the Fiend should face. I think it should be John Cena. I know, right? That was probably not what you was expecting at all. But we saw at this year's WrestleMania, the Fiend Bray Wyatt versus John Cena in a Firefly Funhouse match. And this was unlike anything we'd seen before. But it only happened because of the pandemic. It only happened because their wrestling match didn't happen in front of a live audience. But more importantly, during the match, we saw something we've never seen before. John Cena turn heel. John Cena joined the NWO. His career was completely reshapen during the Firefly Funhouse match. He disappeared and we've never seen him again. So what if he came back as heel John Cena against the face Bray Wyatt? Because at the moment, the Fiend is a good guy. And you can have heel Cena versus the Fiend at WrestleMania. And if you plan to have a live audience, I'd be all for it. I think the two could put on a hell of a match. Why not? Next up, how about Jeff Hardy? Now, Jeff Hardy and Bray Wyatt do have a storied history that plays into Bray Wyatt's redemption, revenge story very, very well. Of course, Jeff was there when Bray was originally thrown into the Lake of Reincarnation, which separated him from Sister Abigail. Now, that led to him teaming with Matt Hardy in the Deleters of Worlds tag team. But it doesn't mean that Bray today would be happy with that. Bray might have seen that as a weakness, and therefore he might want to punish the Hardys. They could even literally say the story that, hey, Bray can't get to your brother, Jeff, so I'm coming after you. And that could be the story. We all know Matt Hardy's in AEW. It looks unlikely he'll go back to WWE anytime soon. And maybe when Jeff Hardy vs. Bray happens, you can then do Willow vs. The Fiend. We know Jeff Hardy has expressed a lot of interest in wrestling a match as Willow against The Fiend. He's got a whole cinematic plan for the match. Everything already. He has said that Willow will probably be very different to how Willow was in TNA, so I don't know what that means, whether that means different face paint, different mask, no idea. But I think that the fact Jeff Hardy has outright said this is what he wants, mixed with the fact that Bray Wyatt has a lot of creative control and pure creative genius with everything we've seen from The Fiend and the Funhouse, this could be an absolute masterpiece of a wrestling match. Now, we all know that The Fiend now has his new friend, Alexa Bliss. And it's only common sense that says that Alexa Bliss will play a massive role in the future of The Fiend's feuds. So why not book them in tag matches? How about with NXT's Karrion Kross and Scarlett? Scarlett being Hell's Mistress, as WWE like to call her on Twitter on Wednesday. I think this would be a great feud. Although Karrion Kross and Scarlett's gimmicks are very different, they have made themselves probably the face of NXT in the recent months they've been there. And by doing so, they've drawn comparisons with probably the face of WWE, Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss. It's a natural duo that going against each other could be really, really fun. I think they could do again some great work, especially if you did Bliss vs Scarlett, Fiend versus Cross, then the tag match payoff. It could be very, very cool. Vincent, Kennedy, McMahon. Now, although we have actually seen the Fiend Bray Wyatt and Vince face to face in the ring, they've never had an altercation yet. And we know that the Fiend Bray Wyatt has the Devil Vince puppet in the Funhouse, so we know that that's going to play a part of the story overall. It would make sense. The chance of us actually getting a wrestling match, I think there's no chance in hell, but an attack would be cool to build to a match between the Fiend versus Triple H. Triple H does have history with Bray Wyatt. He actually teamed with Seth and Dean Ambrose, the Shield, replaced Roman Reigns, and actually faced a tag team including Bray Wyatt. So it does play into Bray's story somewhat, but you can get rid of this as well by saying that it's all revenge for the Fiend attacking Vince. You could even include Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, and book another tag team match. This way, we know Stephanie's still okay wrestling. She wrestled Brie Bella not that long ago. So maybe just for a one-off, I think she'd do it happily, knowing the amount of people that would likely want to see this match. And imagine the promo between Alexa and Stephanie. Like, you could have Stephanie say, "You might be Bray's bitch, but I'm the bitch." That would be cool. From that feud, we could even get a match possibly with The Fiend and Shane McMahon. We know Shane McMahon's always up for doing some crazy, wacky stuff. Well, in a match with The Fiend, you can get crazy and wacky very, very quickly. It could lead to some OMG moments for sure. But before we continue, I want to offer you guys a reminder. You now officially have 1 week from the day this video goes live as a premiere to get your hashtag CMYTHEORY videos uploaded to YouTube. Lots of people are contacting me saying they are doing them. You haven't uploaded your videos yet. You got 7 days from right now. Good luck. The Demon King, Finn Balor. Now, we know Finn Balor has faced The Fiend before. He was the very first opponent for The Fiend at SummerSlam last year. And I think Demon Balor versus The Fiend is just kind of a way that, fans have fantasized ever since The Fiend's debut about that match. And it's a match I think we've definitely got to see. And although I know Finn is probably doing his best work right now in NXT, and he's being used properly, unlike what he was being used like on the main roster, if you brought back the Demon and you put him straight in a feud with The Fiend, there's no way you can bury him. Because if you gave that 3, 4, 5 months of a feud, you're going to have the Demon go over The Fiend at some point. You're going to have that huge moment. And that's what that's what Finn Balor needs. And I did purposely say the Demon King Finn Balor, because we all know Finn Balor's gimmick right now in NXT is the Prince. Now, when he was on the main roster as the Demon King, when it first got introduced, it would make sense that he wants that crown back. He wants to be the king again, not just the prince. And you could book that story and a reason for Balor to face the Fiend with that line right there. The prince wants to become the Demon King. How about Seth Rollins? Now, I know, again, they faced each other in the past. They actually had a hell of a big, long feud late last year. So it would make sense for them to revisit it. Maybe correct a few things from that feud as well. Maybe that's part of the Bray Wyatt story going forward. But take Seth Rollins' story. He became the Messiah. Now, we all theorize the Fiend changes people. We know that's a fact. So, if that's the case, and Seth became the Messiah because of the Fiend, if he comes back now as Burn It Down Seth, as normal Seth Rollins, well, does that mean that he wants revenge for the things the Fiend made him do, like taking out Rey Mysterio's eyeball temporarily because he's now grown it back? But would Seth want revenge on Bray? It's a very good concept. And the reason I think these past opponents would make great new opponents for the Fiend is simple. Going back to an original idea on the channel of life being a circle and things never ever ending, of course, things have to come back around again, and there has to be a reason for it, and I can find a reason for pretty much everyone the Fiend has faced thus far, even those he hasn't. Like The Miz. The Miz has actually gone up against Bray Wyatt now twice since we've actually seen the Fiend debut. He's never come face to face with The Fiend. It's never worked out well for Miz. He's the only person to lose to Funhouse Bray Wyatt on pay-per-view on TV, so that's kind of funny. But I feel like Miz coming face to face with The Fiend is inevitable. I feel like it will happen eventually. Just a slow burn story. I'd love to see John Morrison versus The Fiend, and you can get to that from a spin-off of the Miz storyline. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Alexa Bliss would have something to say if they did feud with Morrison at some point. But I'd love to see Morrison maybe go back to become Johnny Nitro and sort of turn his back on The Miz, or just something that annoys The Miz to get to this match. It would be cool. Braun Strowman. Now, I started this video talking about Randy Orton and how a lot of people perceive Orton to be the biggest feud for The Fiend. I think that could be Braun. Although we have seen Braun this year face Funhouse Bray, Cult Leader Bray, and even the fact he's wrestled The Fiend, their rivalry didn't really end. It kind of got postponed with the return of Roman Reigns. So I just feel like letting these two go at it again in a whole different concept with maybe even new cinematic style matches would be really, really fun. Of course, the Braun feud was the feud that actually gave birth to The Fiend and Alexa becoming a team. After Fiend attacked Alexa, seemingly to get to Braun Strowman, everything that's happened afterwards, I don't know if that was on purpose or not. But this is WWE, and we all know in WWE what happens to tag teams. Eventually, they break up. What more impactful way for Alexa to finally leave the Funhouse whenever that time comes than by turning on The Fiend? Now imagine if she joined Braun Strowman. Braun could be successful or unsuccessful. She could then go and recruit a Demon King to come and battle The Fiend. She could hold all the secrets of the Funhouse and the secrets to how to stop him and become one of the biggest rivals to The Fiend without even facing him in the ring. That would be so, well, like such a great story that WWE could tell that I think it's very possible it could happen. The Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. We spoke about it earlier. He came back, he attacked The Fiend. We thought we was going to get a feud after Roman took the title from Bray and Braun in that triple threat match. So it never happened, but it was definitely teased. Now, Bray was subsequently transferred to Raw. Very smart WWE, because you want to keep your two cash cows separate from each other. But we know by the introduction of the wobbly walrus puppet that Bray Wyatt has a story to be continued. Just because it didn't happen the week after, guys, it doesn't mean it's been scrapped. It just means it will happen eventually. Now, this puppet represents Paul Heyman. That feud, therefore, could be with Paul, and it could be he beats Roman Reigns, and then Paul Heyman needs to go out and find someone else to take on The Fiend. Which could lead to a great segue to set up for Fiend versus Brock Lesnar. There is history between Bray and Brock, so obviously it could happen. With the history with Heyman, it's got to happen, I think, at some point. You could wait 3 years to do this match, but I do think it will happen eventually. And just a shout out to Days Fan, because I know that right now he's watching the video at some time in the future, and he's absolutely popping for me mentioning this. Now, of course, we could fantasy book The Fiend against many other people like Undertaker, Matt Hardy, Dean Ambrose, CM Punk, Luke Harper. You could probably throw Sting, Eric Rowan, and other names like that up there as well. The chances of it happening are very, very slim. None of these people are with WWE in a wrestling capacity right now. So I wanted to stick to more reality-based opponents The Fiend could face. And I have one more. So who's next? That's right, Bill Goldberg. Now, we all don't need any reminding of what happened at Super Showdown when Goldberg took the title from The Fiend. I don't think any of us really legitimately like this, but it happened. Now, Bray Wyatt did a very good job from this. He recovered it very well by saying he wanted to face John Cena at WrestleMania. Goldberg wasn't part of his story, but you gotta believe, no matter what, the loss to Goldberg hurt. it hurt us Fireflies. It hurt Bray Wyatt's momentum, and it definitely derailed him at the start of the year. That's a wrong. And for that wrong, life, as we said it earlier, is a circle. And therefore, eventually Goldberg surely has to come round again, and the Fiend will get his revenge. I hope this video's done one thing, and that's settled your minds a little bit to people that Bray Wyatt can face. A lot of people are concerned with him facing Orton so seemingly early that is a bad sign. It's not. We could even see Randy Orton versus the Fiend in the future. We might be getting Fiend versus Orton at TLC. We could get cult leader Bray versus Randy Orton at Money in the Bank 2021. It's possible. The feud could go on for years, just spread over time. It's definitely possible. I cannot wait to see the masterpiece these two put on at TLC. I think that's going to be spectacular. I cannot wait to see Bray in that match. Let me know, though, your thoughts and who you want the Fiend to face most in the comment section down below. Like the video if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, share the video, and follow me again on Twitter at CWrestlingUK. I'll see you as always next time. Peace!